Hello YouTube, in today's video I want to talk with you about Anavar. I already have a video on it, but it's a bit old, something like 2 years old I think. So in that period of time I was able to gather more experiences with this drug, gather more knowledge about it, so therefore now I'm able to share even more information about it and break it down more into details for you guys. Anavar, or other name is oxandrolone. It's a DHT-derived 17-alpha-alkylated anabolic androgenic steroid. So, being DHT-derived automatically tells you that it doesn't aromatize into estrogen, therefore it can't cause any estrogenic side effects whatsoever. Being 17-alpha-alkylated tells you that it's kind of liver toxic like all other orals. However, Anavar, it's like an exception, it's really not that liver toxic for majority of people. Majority of people will tolerate like low to moderate doses of Anavar with pretty much zero or almost zero liver toxicity. However, it can be liver toxic for some people, especially at higher doses. Continue, Anavar is one of the steroids that is pretty widely prescribed by doctors up until this day. It was used in medicine quite a lot for many different medical conditions, including burn patients, muscle wasting diseases, and so on, But nowadays it's also pretty commonly prescribed to people that are on TRT by TRT clinics, as a TRT add-on. And it's definitely one of the safest anabolic androgenic steroids you can use. I've used Anavar myself for quite a few cycles, and I can definitely confirm that it's very low on side effects, at least for me, and it's pretty powerful stuff at the same time, So, yeah, Anavar is oftentimes underrated by people. People would say, Anavar, it's not strong, it's a steroid for girls. But it's really not the case. So if you have like legit Anavar that is not faked or underdosed or mixed with something else, it's definitely very powerful stuff. It's very powerful steroid. It's pretty anabolic. You can expect quite a significant muscle gain from taking Anavar, So considering your diet and training are on point, you should expect quite significant both muscle and strength gains from Anavar. Of course, take into consideration that you need to take testosterone with Anavar. So you can't just do like Anavar solo and take just Anavar with no testosterone, because it will shut you down and you'll be left with no testosterone and therefore also with no estradiol. So you just can't do it like that, if you want to do it the proper way and build some muscle and be healthy. So you need to take testosterone and then you take Anavar on top. So, for example, a good cycle of test and Anavar that is pretty powerful and will provide a significant results considering diet and training are on point would be something like, I don't know, it also depends if you're intermediate, advanced, beginner, but like for an intermediate, let's say you're doing your third cycle or blast or something like that, you can do something like 500 milligrams of testosterone with like 40 to 50 milligrams of Anavar, which is considered to be like the moderate dose of, the medium dose of Anavar, it's not low, it's not too high. It would be a pretty damn good cycle if your stuff is legit. It will give you like pretty instant strength and performance boost, even at lower doses. Even if you would take just like something that guys on TRT take that get their Anavar prescribed by doctors, something like 10 to 20 milligrams pre-workout, even that would give you like a significant strength boost, performance boost, endurance, pumps, so imagine taking like a bodybuilder doses, which are like 40, 50, 60, 70, even up to 100 milligrams of Anavar per day. That's pretty strong, so you can gain a lot of muscle, a lot of strength from Anavar. Regarding the type of cosmetic effect you should get from Anavar to your muscles is, like I said, you should gain hard, lean, dense muscle tissue. Your muscles should appear like round and full, and also it will increase vascularity. However, it will not dry you out as much as something like Winstrol, for example, So if you start taking Anavar and you're getting like really dry, your muscles are getting really dry, then maybe you're getting Winstrol, it's not Anavar, And on the other side, if you're starting to take Anavar and you're getting wet and you hold a lot of water and you get puffy, that's most likely not Anavar, but it's Dibble or something like that, So yeah, what also, I forgot to say, Anavar is also one of the best steroids you can take for healing injuries. To increased collagen synthesis, recovery and all that, I'm not that well, I don't know the whole mechanism of action, how it heals injuries, but I know that Anavar it was prescribed for that purpose, and it's definitely a very powerful tool for healing certain injuries. And one last thing to finish the benefits, then we'll move on to the side effects. So I said Anavar will make you strong, it will improve your overall performance, it will improve recovery, it will build muscle, it will help you heal injuries, And then the other thing is Anavar will make your workouts feel fantastic, because it should give you, especially at like moderate to higher doses of Anavar, it should give you like really ridiculous pumps. So you should expect to like be walking around all day with really with a pump, especially if you're eating a bit more higher carb diet and you're insulin sensitive, you should expect pumps pretty much 24/7. I remember when I was on 50 milligrams of Anavar, for example, I eat my lunch, I hold the fork and my forearms just get pumped out of my mind. And that will obviously make your workouts much more enjoyable, because you'll just have that like ridiculous pump from everything and veins popping out, So yeah, that's pretty much it from the benefits. I'm sure we could list more benefits, but those are like the basic ones, Now let's move on to side effects. So just like pretty much all drugs, also Anavar has some potential side effects that you need to be aware of. So like we said at the beginning, it's a 17-alpha alkylated anabolic androgenic steroid, so it can be liver toxic, especially at higher doses, However, like I said, majority of people tolerate Anavar pretty well with like no to very mild liver toxicity, For example, me, when I was running Anavar, last time I was running it 50 milligrams for 16 weeks straight, so like 4 months of Anavar, I think, something like that, at 50 milligrams per day, which is like, it's not a low dose, but it's also not like an extreme dose. It's something in the middle, And I checked my liver markers before and after the cycle, and they weren't affected at all. I don't even know if they were elevated. I think they were pretty much the same, or even lower. I don't remember exactly, but they were pretty much in the same place than they were before the cycle. So 16 weeks of 50 milligrams Anavar daily didn't affect my liver markers, However, I am me and you are you and he is him, so we can't say that for everybody, I know some guys that they take Anavar for shorter periods of time and they get elevated liver markers. So yeah, Anavar, to conclude, it can be liver toxic, especially at higher doses for longer periods of time. However, it's not necessarily liver toxic, and majority of people tolerate it pretty well with no or very mild liver toxicity. And the next thing is kidney toxicity. Anavar can be kidney toxic especially at high doses for longer periods of time. However, like if you're moderate with it and you don't take too much for too long, I don't think it will be an issue, to be honest. Like doctors prescribe it even for longer periods of time. They don't prescribe that big doses, but they prescribe Anavar, So I never noticed any like decline in kidney health in myself or in any of my clients, or I never heard from anybody like getting kidney issues from taking Anavar, So it's something that would happen if you like really abuse the shit out of it, in my opinion. So if you take it like at higher doses for longer periods of time. But if you take breaks, if you do like a cycle of Anavar for, let's say, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and then you take off and you don't take Anavar for a few months, and you don't go too high with doses, and you keep your blood pressure under control, and you stay hydrated, eat healthy, take health subs and all that, I don't think you'll experience that issue from Anavar. However, I'm not a doctor, so I can't promise you that, we are all different, we react differently to the compounds, Okay, so then the next side effect is lipids, So Anavar, just like pretty much any other anabolic steroid, can affect lipids in a negative way. So it can increase LDL. However, I didn't notice that with myself or with my clients. My LDL was pretty much the same before and after the cycle. But it will almost certainly lower HDL. Just like any other DHT compound, it will lower HDL. that again is not that much of a big deal in my opinion. We don't even know for sure if having low HDL is it's a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, so it's definitely not as important as keeping your LDL low. Okay, so we talked about kidneys, liver, lipids, then acne, just like with any other anabolic androgenic steroid. If you are prone to getting acne from androgens, you can get acne from Anavar. If you're not, you'll not get. I never got any acne from any steroid, but I know some guys. I had 2 of my clients that they took Anavar and they got a bit of acne. Not a lot, but they got some breakouts, and they keep getting them as long as they are on Anavar. So yeah, it can cause acne. Anavar can cause acne. Then hair loss, Anavar can also cause hair loss if you're prone to hair loss. So I'm not prone to hair loss. I can take as many steroids as I want. I don't lose any hair, but if someone is prone to hair loss and he takes Anavar, it may cause hair loss. Yeah, those are, I think, the most common side effects from Anavar. Regarding things like erythrocytosis and that stuff, having too high hematocrit, that's something that pretty much every single steroid can do. However, I didn't notice that much from Anavar. In myself, I didn't notice increase in hematocrit. I noticed increasing hematocrit from Primobolan much more than from Anavar, And also in my clients, I never noticed polycythemia from Anavar. Even testosterone is, I think, worse for causing polycythemia than Anavar, at least from my experiences. So, yeah. However, keep in mind that that's something that all steroids can cause. So it can cause polycythemia. It can cause you to have increased hematocrit. Oh, and blood pressure increase, I really don't think Anavar will be that problematic in that regard. I mean, technically, all steroids could increase blood pressure, due to overactivating renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, and especially if you gain weight rapidly using them, So, but Anavar is probably one of the least problematic ones. I never saw any significant increases in my blood pressure from just taking Anavar. It usually comes in me when I gain a lot of weight rapidly. Then the blood pressure increases, but it's not that much dependent on the steroids themselves. So yeah, those are like the general side effects you should look after when doing Anavar. You may experience one of them, you may experience 3 of them, you may experience none. It really depends on a person. Of course, we could find some other potential side effects because we all differently respond to the drug. But those are like the general ones that will most likely that like people most oftentimes encounter, to say. So yeah, when doing Anavar, you should look after your lipids, make sure that your lipid profile is good, make sure that your liver markers are on point, make sure that your kidney markers look good. Measure your blood pressure just like with everything else, do like an ECG or ultrasound of the heart every 1, 2, 3 years, just so you monitor your heart muscle if you're getting any left ventricular enlargement that can happen from steroid abuse, especially if in combination with high blood pressure and high body weight. But in general, Anavar, it's pretty safe and it can be used very safely in a lot of people if used sparingly, So yeah, the doses of Anavar, like I already mentioned, you can take anything from like 10 milligrams per day up to something like 100 milligrams per day. That would be the max dose. And I wouldn't recommend taking 100 milligrams per day unless you are some advanced steroid user, Otherwise, for beginners, starting with like something like 30 milligrams of Anavar per day should be more than enough. Then for intermediate, you can do a bit more. And if you're doing like a bit more heavy cycle, trying to gain a lot of mass or preparing for some competition or photo shoot, you can go up to higher doses. But I don't recommend staying at higher doses of Anavar for too long, even though it's pretty safe even at higher doses. Now, cycle length. So for how long should you use Anavar? I really don't like saying that because it really depends on so many things. It depends on a dose, it depends on a person and his individual response to the drug. It depends on other steroids that you're taking. So it's not the same whether you take 20 milligrams of Anavar per day or whether you take 50 milligrams of Anavar per day in combination with 30 milligrams of Winstrol. So it really depends. I would say it like that. Monitor your blood work every, let's say, 2 months, and if everything looks perfect, that you're perfectly healthy, then you can afford to do longer cycles of Anavar. If not, then you should stop earlier, simple as that. But in any case, I don't recommend using any oral for too long. So you shouldn't rely on Anavar as a driver of your progress, You should rely mostly on healthier injectables, something like testosterone, Primo, or maybe Nandrolone if you tolerate it well. And then here and there you throw in some oral, something like Anavar. Definitely you can do that, But as I said, don't rely on it, don't use it for too long, don't be on Anavar for year round, And then one last thing that I want to discuss in this video is the sublingual administration of Anavar. So you can either take Anavar orally, so you swallow down the tablets and you let them absorb in your gastrointestinal tract, or you put the tablets under your tongue or in your mouth and you let them absorb there with saliva. So why would you do the sublingual administration of Anavar instead of the oral administration of Anavar? Here is why. First, because you increase the bioavailability. So more of the Anavar is actually going to be absorbed if you do the sublingual administration. Second of all, you will reduce the hepatotoxicity, not much, but you will reduce it a bit. And then the third thing, you will shorten the half-life of the drug, which is not necessarily something you want, but it's just something that happens with sublingual administration, and it doesn't really matter that much as long as you split up the doses in 3 per day to say, So yeah, I would recommend doing sublingual administration. Most of the time I do it myself too. I know it's a bit silly. You need to have the tablets in your mouth and keep the saliva there and wait for 20 minutes to absorb most of it. But improving bioavailability and reducing hepatotoxicity is definitely worth it in my opinion, even though it's probably not that significant, it's still worth it. So that's pretty much it for today's video. To conclude on short, Anavar is in my opinion one of the best anabolic steroids out there. It's also among my favorites. Why? Well, simply because it's strong. It's not as strong as Tren or something like that, but it's definitely strong. It can give you a lot of gains, and at the same time it's pretty safe and very low on side effects for majority of people. So it's among the safest anabolic steroids. So it's not as safe as something like testosterone or Primo, but it's very near them, So it's a very safe steroid in general, And yeah, like I said, that's it for today's video. Hope you learned something useful. Like always, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share to support the channel's growth. If you need the online coaching, you can DM me on Instagram, and see you in next video and have a great day.